Space, the final frontier. Captain Eva Valkyrie Johanssen stared out of the viewport, her breath caught in her throat, a derelict spaceship adrift. A distress beacon pulsed weakly.
Looks like we've got ourselves a salvage up, boys, she said, her voice tight with anticipation.
Little did she know, this was no ordinary salvage. The crew of the salvage vessel prepped for boarding. Excitement mingled with apprehension. They were a seasoned crew, but something about this ship felt off. The air hung heavy with unspoken dread. They boarded the derelict vessel, their footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. The derelict ship was a labyrinth of cold steel and flickering lights. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional hiss of escaping gas and the creaking of the ship's dying breath.
Spread out, see what you can find, Captain Johanssen ordered, her hand hovering over her sidearm.
The crew fanned out, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of decay and something else, something unidentifiable and unsettling. Each step felt like an intrusion, a trespass into a place best left undisturbed. Days turned into weeks as the crew scoured the derelict vessel. They found no bodies, no signs of struggle, just an eerie emptiness that seemed to press in on them, whispering in the shadows. The silence was starting to get to them. Each creak of the ship, every flicker of light sent shivers down their spines.
"You hear that?" whispered Dr. Anya Sharma, the ship's doctor, her voice trembling.
"Hear what?" hissed back Jax Boomer Rodriguez, the ship's engineer, his hand gripping a wrench.
"That whispering," Anya replied, her eyes wide with fear.
Boomer listened intently, but there was nothing but the ever-present hum of the ship's failing systems. The whispers started subtly, a fleeting sound at the edge of hearing, a rustle in the ventilation shafts, but as the days passed, they grew bolder, more insistent. The crew started seeing things in the shadows, fleeting glimpses of movement that vanished as quickly as they appeared.
Something's not right, whispered Captain Johanssen to her first officer, Liam Hawkeye O'Connell. I can feel it.
Liam nodded, his face grim.
The crew's on edge. We need to find out what's going on before this ship drives us all mad.
Their words hung heavy in the air, a chilling premonition of the horror to come. The whispers escalated to disembodied voices, uttering their names, taunting them from the shadows. It was as if the very walls of the spaceship had come alive, echoing their deepest fears and insecurities. The crew could no longer distinguish between reality and the haunting echoes that filled their ears. The fear was palpable now, a living thing that stalked the corridors alongside them. Every creak, every groan of the ship seemed to be a sinister whisper, a reminder of their isolation in the vastness of space. The once bright and sterile environment of the spaceship had turned into a labyrinth of dread. The crew, once a cohesive unit, was disintegrating into fear and suspicion. Bonds forged over years of training and missions were unraveling, replaced by mistrust and paranoia. Each member eyed the others with suspicion, wondering who might be the source of their torment.
"It was you, wasn't it?" The accusation hung in the air, heavy and charged with emotion.
Boomer snarled, pointing an accusing finger at Anya. His eyes were wild, filled with a mix of fear and anger, as if accusing her would somehow bring clarity to the chaos.
"You're the one who's been saying you hear things." His voice was sharp, almost desperate, as if he needed someone to blame to make sense of the madness.
Anya backed away, her eyes wide with terror. She could feel the weight of their stares, the collective suspicion pressing down on her. Her heart raced and she felt trapped, like a cornered animal.
"No, I swear I didn't do anything." Her voice trembled, a mix of fear and desperation. She looked around, hoping for someone to believe her, to see the truth in her eyes.
Captain Johanssen stepped between them, her voice firm. She had to maintain control to keep the crew from tearing itself apart.
Enough. We're all on edge, but accusing each other won't help. Her words were a desperate attempt to restore order, to remind them of their mission and their need to work together.
But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her. She couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was manipulating them, turning them against each other. Could one of them be responsible for this nightmare? The question lingered, unspoken but ever present as they continued their journey through the cold, unfeeling void of space. The tension reached a fever pitch when the entity finally revealed itself. It wasn't a grotesque monster or a malevolent alien, but something far more insidious, a shimmering distortion of light and shadow, a manifestation of their deepest fears. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, revealing a glimpse of something beyond human comprehension. The crew had prepared for many scenarios, but nothing could have readied them for this. It appeared in the mess hall where the terrified crew huddled, their faces illuminated by the flickering emergency lights. The room, once a place of camaraderie and shared meals, now felt like a prison. The air was thick with dread, and every shadow seemed to pulse with malevolence. The crew's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of hope, but finding none.
You should not be here. This place is mine. The voice was not just heard but felt, reverberating through their very bones. It was a declaration, a warning, and a promise of doom all rolled into one.
The crew scrambled back in terror, their weapons useless against this intangible horror. They had faced dangers before, but this was different. This was a force that defied all logic and reason, a nightmare made real. Their training and bravery seemed insignificant in the face of such overwhelming dread.
What do you want? The question hung in the air, a desperate plea for understanding in a situation that defied it.
Captain Johanssen demanded, her voice trembling but firm. The entity pulsed, its form shifting, a mockery of human expression. It seemed to grow larger, more menacing, feeding off their fear. The captain's heart pounded in her chest, but she stood her ground, refusing to let her crew see her fear.
Your fear, your despair, your very souls. The entity's words were like a cold hand gripping their hearts, squeezing the life out of them. It thrived on their terror, drawing strength from their darkest emotions. The crew realized that this was not just a battle for their lives, but for their very essence. They had to find a way to fight back, to reclaim their hope and courage, or be consumed by the darkness forever.
Captain Johanssen knew they couldn't fight this thing with weapons. It fed on their fear, their terror. They had to stand their ground.
We're not afraid of you.
She lied, her voice shaking. The entity let out a chilling laugh that echoed through the derelict ship.
Lies, I can smell your fear.
Panic welled up inside her, but she forced it down.
Leave us alone. This ship is as much ours as yours.
The entity pulsed, its form shifting, a mockery of human expression.
This ship is a tomb, and you will be its latest occupants.
Desperation clawed at Captain Johanssen. They were outmatched, outgunned. Thinking fast, she ordered her team to gather anything flammable.
You cannot escape your fate. This ship is my domain, and you are my prisoners.
The entity watched, amused by their futile attempts to fight back. They doused the corridors with fuel, creating a firewall between them and the entity. Boomer, his hand trembling, ignited the fuel. Flames roared, driving the entity back, its form flickering in the sudden blaze. S1, Boomer now! The flames seemed to hurt the entity, forcing it to retreat deeper into the ship. Hawkeye shouted, his voice laced with both fear and elation. S3, it's working!
Don't get cocky, it's not over yet.
They made their way to the escape pods, the flames licking at their heels. The entity's screams of rage echoed behind them. They piled into the remaining escape pod, the metal hot to the touch. Captain Johanssen slammed her fist against the launch button. With a deafening roar, they shot away from the derelict ship, leaving the entity trapped in its fiery prison. As they hurtled away, they watched the derelict ship explode, consumed by the flames they had ignited. The entity's screams echoed in their minds, a chilling reminder of their close brush with death. They had escaped, but the experience had changed them. They had looked into the abyss and seen the face of true terror. They were safe, for now. But deep down, they knew that the entity, and the fear it embodied, would forever be with them, lurking in the darkest corners of their minds, a chilling reminder of the horrors that awaited them in the vast emptiness of space. Captain Johanssen stared at the star-dusted void, her mind replaying the events that had led her here. The vast expanse of space seemed both beautiful and terrifying, a stark contrast to the chaos she had just escaped. The derelict ship's explosion was now a fading memory, but the impact of that moment lingered. The fiery blast had been a desperate attempt to destroy the entity that had haunted them. The escape pod was cramped, offering little comfort. Every inch of the small space was a reminder of their narrow escape. Silent except for the gentle hum of the life support system, the pod felt like a fragile bubble of safety in the vast, indifferent universe. She could still feel the entity's presence, a lingering shadow that refused to be forgotten. It was as if the entity had left an indelible mark on her soul, a cold whisper at the edge of her awareness. It was a constant reminder of the encounter that had nearly cost them their lives. It was a reminder of the fragility of life, the thin line between survival and oblivion. Space was beautiful, but it was also a place of unimaginable dangers. They had survived, but at a cost. The physical and emotional scars would take time to heal, if they ever truly did. The experience had shaken them to their core, stripping away any illusions of invincibility they might have had, leaving them haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. The memories of the entity's malevolent presence would be hard to erase. They were forever bound by their shared trauma, a bond forged in the crucible of fear and survival. Forever marked by their encounter with the entity, they knew that their lives had been irrevocably changed. As they drifted through the vast emptiness of space, the silence was both a comfort and a curse. It gave them time to reflect, but also time to remember. They knew one thing for sure: the experience had altered them in ways they were only beginning to understand. They would never be the same again. The entity had left its mark, and the vastness of space now seemed even more daunting.
They knew one thing for sure: the entity's presence had changed them forever. They would never be the same again. The vast emptiness of space was now a constant reminder of their ordeal, a testament to their survival and the price they had paid.